Well, it's Linda from North Central Texas back at you again. If you remember, I had this big cardboard box that I had potatoes planted in. Well, the beginning of the summer, the potatoes grew pretty good. I mean, the bushes were beautiful, but it never produced. Well, I have to say that is not exactly true, because there goes a little potato. I never did dig it up to see if there was potatoes in it. But even if it didn't produce potatoes, what it did is produce me some nice soil to plant in. So before I tear this box apart and get rid of it and put a tote or a big pot here, I'm going to replant in it and plant me some bush beans. Because as you can see, I've got foot-long beans growing up the trellis here, and I left a couple to dry out to get seeds. And lo and behold, somebody's picked my beans off of here because my seeds are gone. My seed pods are gone. But I don't know. I guess if they're that destitute and they need to come in somebody else's yard and pick their stuff off of their bushes, I guess if they're that hard up, I mean, hey, a couple of dried beans, I don't guess is going to kill me. But you know what? I'm going to throw that one little old potato back in there. It'll grow. But anyway, what I wanted to show you, if you don't have a bunch of compost and you don't have a bunch of food scraps, but you've been making compost tea like I have in this bucket. Well, I've got a lot of vines and stuff down in there that doesn't completely break down. And from time to time, I will get it out. See, just like that. And guess what? Just throw it in your pot. Throw it in your tub or your pot or whatever you got. Because that is going to do a world of good for your plants when they start growing. Just like throwing potato peelings and anything else in there. And it frees up more space in your compost tea bucket to put fresh leaves and compost. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and plant, since I've got this pot here already, I'm going to go ahead and plant some bush beans in it. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this topsoil that I had already bought up in the top. I mean, I'm surprised I've got anything still alive in my garden. With all this hot, I mean, they've said at one of the cooperative meetings tonight that I attended online on the phone, that this has been one of the hottest summers, basically in history for Texas. I mean, this soil is so rich. I'm only going to put about half a bag in the top of it. And it's starting to lean over because I know it's going to start breaking up. And all this compost tea that was left in there, I'm just going to water this with. Because I need to start I can start another bucket. Water it down good. And you know the crazy thing? These white bags right here, those are my garden soil bags. You know, as I told you, don't get rid of them. Save them and use them as grow bags. Because all you got to do is put holes in the bottom, and they help retain moisture, just like your pots, because your pots are plastic. Let that down good. Now I've already got good potting soil in there, because what I had planted in there at the beginning of the summer, like I said, was potatoes that they grew fantastic the beginning of the summer. But then we got that 110, 109 temperature weather, and those potato vines just could not handle it. So they gave up. And I'm just going to try to make a few rows. I didn't get my gloves. I'm always forgetting my gloves. Just don't want to put them too close. But this is the time of the season right now that you can plant a lot of your brassicas, like your collards, Chinese cabbage. Chinese cabbage grows real good here for me, because it doesn't head up. It just makes like a leaf, and you break those leaves off, and oh my God, they're so good. But here's my bush beans. And it says, you know, to plant them. Well, you can start planting them in March, but they like colder temperatures. So that's why I'm planting them now. Because I planted a few back the beginning of the summer, and it got too hot on them. Don't need to put too many in here, because I don't really plan on transplanting them anywhere. I want to put enough in there that hopefully I'll have some come up. Oh, I'm about to forget what I'm doing here. But then just cover them up slightly. And keep your soil damp. So those seeds have a chance to germinate and come up. And if you plant them like that, I should have a good crop of bush beans for my fall garden. I've got a few other things that I was thinking about planting too. I don't know. I mean, I've got some of my Chinese cabbage, and I've still got Brussels sprouts. I have a lot of Brussels sprouts, and I found the trick to those, if you grow them here, is break the leaves off, and you can cook the leaves just like you do kale or cabbage. And it still tastes like the Brussels sprouts, but you just don't wait till they head up. I found here, when I leave them till they head up, the bugs try to get to them. But it might not be that bad now, since it's starting to cool off. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've still got 100-degree temperatures. We've still got 95 to 100-degree days every day, but it's not like it was when it was 105 or 109 and even 110. So, and then too, I wanted to tell you that if you'll fix your totes now, or your 5-gallon buckets, even if you don't plan on planting in them. Go ahead and build them now with your food scraps and your broken down twigs and wood from your yard and compost, table scraps, you name it. Just go ahead and fix them now and let them set all winter. They'll be right ready to plant in for the spring of the year. But then on the other hand too, if you've got stuff you want to plant now, you can do like I did the Brussels sprouts and the peppers, the bush beans. Go ahead, fix your totes, put all your materials in there, go ahead and put your plants in, and you're good to go. Sometime if you put a lot of table scraps in a tote, in some areas you might get ants. And I fix that by putting a little bit of ant granules around the outside of the tub. And that usually takes care of it, because I don't, sometimes I walked around and tried to work in a tote, and I've actually had stepped in ants that were going to the compost and the food scraps in the tote. And I don't want that. So if you live in an area where you're not bothered with the ants, then you're fortunate. And I was looking it up online, and I found how come my tomatillos are not doing much right now. They're blooming like crazy. They look like they're trying to put out fruit, but I don't seem to be getting anything bigger than a pea size on it. And what I found by doing some research online, that if it gets too hot for tomatillos, they will bloom like crazy. They'll look like they're going to produce a lot, and then they do nothing. So maybe when the temperatures cool off a tiny bit, maybe they'll start producing some tomatillos. And since I have been watering stuff with my compost tea, the temperatures have cooled off. My okra has sprung back into action. In fact, I need to go around now and cut some of the okra off of it. So I don't leave some of it like I did before and it be so tough you can't eat it. Like this one right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's getting a head on the top, and it's getting ready to produce a bunch of okra up there. And then I've got some here. Right there. One over here. I got some on the other plants. So I need, because I've got my plants strung all over the yard. My okra is in like 5-6 different locations. And here's that squash plant. One reason I put that dish pan there with my onions in it is because it drains into the little swimming pool, and it's helping my squash plant. See there? I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying to show you that little squash developing down in there. There's one right there. So I might end up with a good mess of squash off of that little plant for cold weather if it stays alive. But I love gardening. I love to grow vegetables. I love to grow any kind of plants. And look at this. Hopefully I will get more cucumbers and melons off of these vines. Like I told you, I had an animal, I guess, got one of my melons, and then the next 2 or 3 days the other melon disappeared. So I don't know what's going on. But see, there's a Brussels sprout right there. If the bugs will stay away from it, it'll turn into Brussels sprouts. I mean, it'll make a little head, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just not any good with this camera. I can't tell sometimes what I'm aiming at. But yeah, I don't think an animal climbed my bean pole on my bean trellis to pick my dried bean. But I had 2 foot-long beans on there that I was letting go to seed, and they have disappeared. They didn't fall to the ground because I never saw them. They would have landed in that pot or that box, and that didn't happen, so don't know what happened to it. But I've got Chinese cabbage. I've got Brussels sprouts. I had planted kale. Well, the giant kale, the sun got too hot on it, so I've got to replant that. It's for colder weather. But even the okra down here in these little in the cinder block holes is doing great. I mean, they're trying to put off okra at the top, and I broke actually a couple off of them already. And see, there's okra forming right there, and here in this pot. But anyway, all the stuff I pulled up and replanted in the cinder blocks is doing good. I mean, if you do that and you replant this time of year, the leaves are going to droop down. I mean, that's just to be expected when you replant something. But just keep it watered good. And I guarantee you, as soon as it takes root good, the roots get used to being where they're at. You'll all of a sudden see that plant perk up. You'll see it put on new growth. And that's when you're going to know it's happy. And it's going to be growing for you, and it's going to be producing peppers or leaves for your Chinese cabbage or your broccoli or your kale, whatever it is that you've planted. Oh, and I did want to show you my other little I didn't put my hat on this evening. My other volunteer eggplant that came up right here. I told you had been growing like crazy. Well, look at there. There's a little eggplant. And it's going to have a lot more because there's blooms at the top. There's blooms there, here, over there on the other side. And now, since it's not going to be so hot, it should produce some pretty eggplant. As well as the one back there that I had picked all those little eggplants off of. It's putting out more buds, blooms. So I'll be getting more eggplant off of that, I'm sure. Like right there. I went ahead and picked all of the eggplant off of it, but I've got more buds, flowers right there. Right there. There's flowers forming up here at the top. Right there. So I'm going to have more eggplant on this one too. And then, like I said, I've got eggplant down here that came up from the seed that I didn't think was going to come up. I've got 2 of them down here amongst all this tomato vine that's kind of burnt up. But it'll come back to life as long as I keep it watered, because the tops are still good. And this one, the tops are burning up, but I'm not cutting it because hopefully I'll get more sprouts out of the bottom of it. Well, with that, I got some stuff I need to finish doing. I need to finish putting wood chips to one of my little small rock gardens in the front that I didn't get to yet. I thought I'd do that this evening because it won't take me but a few minutes to do it. And with that, let's see. Yeah, I was going to show you that. It was a fountain years ago. the people that first owned this property 40 some odd years ago had put this fountain here. And water would come up out of the top, go down here into this pond in the bottom. But the pond was cracked. They had taken the pump out. And I couldn't keep ants out of the electrical plug-in that they had put on the tree. So when I had the electrician out here one day, I just told him, I said, do me a favor and take that electrical cord off of that tree. That's just an ant trap. I said, I can't keep ants out of it, and it blows the breaker all the time. And I just turned it into a flower pot at top. I got daylilies up there, and they're usually beautiful, the ones in the top. But like I said, we've had such dry weather. It's been extremely hot and dry this summer. The worst summer I think Texas has had. So you can't keep anything watered good. But now the temperatures have dropped a little bit. Like I said, it's down to 95 to 100, somewhere along in there most of the time. So that's better than 105 and 109. So I want to put wood chips down here. And I've got some stuff planted in there, and I got daylilies planted in there, and they will come back up. But it was just too hot on them this year. But everything I plant in my rock gardens, that one over there, and the one in the front with my bird bath in it, and this little long one right here, it's got stuff in it that comes up every year. So, and a lot of it's trying to bloom now since I've started watering it more than I could before. So, anyway, yeah, there's my anyway again. I got to go pick up my newspaper. But, as I've said before on previous videos, if you like the content of my videos, if you're learning anything out of it, because this is a learning experience even for me. I mean, I've been figuring out a lot of stuff on how to grow here in Texas. And I found growing in pots and tubs, big pots and tubs, is the best way to go. Because there's no way I'd have kept any of this stuff alive in my garden the way it is right now if it had not been planted in pots. Because I could not have kept it watered. If it's in the ground, you're watering the ground, the whole yard, and the stuff dies. Because I've done that too. It grows good as long as you can keep water to it. But in that heat, you couldn't put enough water to your garden to keep it alive in 110 degree weather. Not when there's no rain. And we had 30 some, well, the whole month of, most of June, we didn't get any rain. July, we didn't get any rain. Now August, we getting promises of rain and no rain. So, but anyway, you can keep your stuff watered a lot better in totes and big pots and 5-gallon buckets. And like I said, I store leaves, twigs, and that type of thing in that cage type compost bin. And I don't turn it. I tried it the first year I put it there, and it was just too hard on me with my back and neck problem. So I pile it in there and I just leave it. It breaks down eventually. And if I need that type of stuff, I just go over there and get it out and put it in my buckets or put it in my tubs. And then the little wheel compost bin that I showed you over there, that's a little bit easier, but I like composting in place better. It's a lot easier just to build your tote let it sit there for a while until you get ready to plant in it and not have to worry about turning it. And there's been some totes that I've had here for several years, and I wanted to replace and rebuild the soil that was in it. So what I do, I just dump it out on the ground, just turn it over. You don't have to pick it up. Just turn it over on the ground, start building your pot back up again. And then you got all that broken down compost and soil that you can use back in that tote again, you know, and just add table scraps, that type of thing. But don't forget the little trick about your compost tea. Don't worry about stuff not breaking down. Like I said, sometimes I've put pumpkin vines and cucumber vines and watermelon vines and everything else down in the bucket, and sometimes all of it doesn't break down. Just get it out, put it in another big pot, and use that as your compost in there. I guarantee you, you won't regret doing it. And with that note, I do have to let you go. I've got to get things done. I've got a lot to do before it gets dark. And like I said, if you like the content of my videos, like my videos, share my videos, and please subscribe to my videos. And y'all have a great evening. Bless you.